Hi, I'm Mike, and welcome back to Dementia Diaries. If you've watched my origin story, you know how I came to the diagnosis of vascular dementia and mild Alzheimer's. You would think, okay, we're even, that's enough. Well, back in March, my urologist sat me down and had that conversation with me. He's been following me for years. And as soon as I got the diagnosis of dementia, we told him. And I bring Karen with me to every doctor's appointment. She sits down with me. You know, whether they like it or not, to say, I'm bringing my wife with me. She's my external brain. She's there to make sure that it's explained to me carefully and that I fully understand what it is they're talking about. And that's exactly what my urologist did. He had been watching my numbers go up and go down and be alarming and not alarming and all this sort of stuff. But the numbers finally hit the number where he said, Mike, we've got to take a look. I don't want to go into the procedure too much, but it was not a lot of fun. And he sat me down on that day and he looked at Karen and myself and he said, well, I have news. I'm going to give you the bad news first. He said, of the 12 biopsies I took, 8 were positive for cancer. And that's when you have that sort of butt-clenching moment, like, oh my God, it's me, it's real. You know, I've got cancer. But he reassured me that it wasn't a very serious one, it was mild. He threw around terms like Gleason score and the likelihoods and the percentages and all that stuff. As you know, I'm lousy at math, so all I knew was we're going to get through this. And he did something really neat. He took out a dry erase marker and he marked on the poster where he took the biopsies and which ones were positive for cancer. And he made sure he repeated it a few times. If it's, you know, these, it's this. And he presented Karen and I 4 options. And he explained the possible outcomes of the 4 options. One of them wasn't one that I wanted to do, one that I definitely could not do, being I'm elderly, slightly overweight, and I've already had a stroke. So it eliminated removing the prostate completely. The choice that was left was radiation therapy. And he saw a very positive outcome from that. So that's what we settled on. We said, okay, this is what I would like to do. We did ask the oncologist if it was okay if we delayed the radiation therapy until after my vacation. It was coming up in a few weeks and we thought, you know, would it be okay? And he said, sure. He set up the radiation to start about the end of August and we went home. And I knew that the same rules apply and that I should apply the same approach to cancer that I did to dementia and Alzheimer's, that I was going to ask for help and I was going to let other people help me. I was going to maintain a positive attitude and I was going to share with others what I was going through. Some of my closest friends knew that I had both dementia and now cancer. And, you know, they were really good about it. They listened to me, they let me blow off steam. You know, it'd be once a week, there'd be phone calls every few days from people, you know, how you doing, Mike, and all of that. And I knew that this was something that I could beat. And when I went to the Windsor Regional Cancer Center, I approached it with a positive attitude. And I knew from the color brochure that the oncologist gave me that there were certain preparations that I had to do. There were certain things that I had to do. I had to drink lots of water and I had to have a poop ahead of time. And I had to go into the treatment with a full bladder. And that meant a full liter of water on the way to the cancer center. but we also took preventative measures. I was going to do what the recommendations were. I was going to do what they told me to do, because I'll tell you, they test you. When you get there, the very first thing that their radiation machine checks for is the bladder full and is the bowel empty. And I want to make sure that I passed every time. Not because I'm a keener, but because, I wanted to have the radiation therapy in the steps as prescribed. And yeah, I didn't want to fail. I wanted to get a gold star. I developed a good relationship with the receptionist at the Windsor Regional Cancer Center, and they were very helpful. And there are volunteers all over the place. And I mentioned to the radiation technicians as soon as I walked in that I had dementia, and they made sure they made a note of it in my chart. The only thing I had to remember was my birth date. And if you pass the test, 10 minutes, you're out. You don't feel a thing. But what I want to stress is how the positive attitude and the preparations affected the rest of it. I didn't have any of the outcomes that were described in the brochure. I don't have any of them now. The only one that I've got is lingering fatigue, but I'm a tired guy anyway. I like me a good nap. So things turned out really well. They really did. And the oncologist towards the end said, "Mike, we got it." So I've gone through this thing with flying colors. I've survived TB4. TB4 is the room number that they keep the cancer machine in. And the radiation technicians there are top notch. I told them I'd give them 4 stars on Google, and I did. So, regardless of the headwinds, if you approach it with the help of others, you share what's going on inside, and you have a care partner like I do, and you go in there as a team, you approach all of it as a team, so it doesn't really matter what's going on. So that's my story for today, and I really do appreciate you for dropping by. And also, if you have a cancer story or if you have a challenge story for me, please leave it in the comments. Don't forget to click like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.